Hey everybody, what's going on? Today in this video, I want to give you my first top 10 list. And we're going to start that off with my top 10 all-time favorite Final Girls. Now, when it comes to the Final Girl, there's a lot of different qualities and different aspects of the character that you need to look at, and the way they are in the movies, the way their character arcs grow, and if they move on to sequels and so on and so forth. But this is just me personally, and it was a little bit difficult for me to make this list because, like I said, we're just doing the Final Girl. Because there are a couple of Final Guys, per se, that are pretty iconic in the horror genre. So just to give you a heads up, we're not going to be having the likes of a Tommy Jarvis or an Ash Williams or cute little Andy. Guys like that, they're not going to be on this list. We're just going to be focusing on the females. And like I said, this is just my opinion. You know, your opinion could be totally different than mine. And please let me know. Let me know down in the comments below what you think. Who if there's anybody I'm missing. Anybody, you'd have on your list that I don't, and my list will definitely be different than yours, but I've thought long and hard about this over the years, and basically my Mount Rushmore has always been the same, like my final four. But 5 through 10 have always somewhat differed. I'm going to try to go through this quick because, if I were to spend, a deep amount of time on each one of these characters, we'd be here for hours. So I'm just going to try to make it short and sweet. And we're going to go from 10 all the way to number 1. So starting off at number 10, we have Julie James from I Know What You Did Last Summer. Now, yes, I've talked about that movie, I Know What You Did Last Summer, on my channel just recently because they're supposedly in the works on trying to get a legacy sequel off the ground, and by God, do I want to see that, definitely. But, I Know What You Did Last Summer was one of the first horror movies I ever saw. I was emotionally attached to Julie James's character, had a huge crush on Jennifer Love Hewitt growing up, but watching that movie, even as a younger kid, I definitely kind of felt like Helen, Sarah Michelle Gellar's character, was just so much more badass. I don't know if it was just I was looking at Buffy or what it was, but I always felt that, she could have been the one to carry on because, it seemed like, Jennifer Love Hewitt was a little bit dull. That character was a little too shy. She didn't really get too badass until the sequel. I still Know What You Did Last Summer. Not a big fan of that movie, but her character definitely grew and became more tough and courageous. So, a lot of people don't have her as like a top 10. I have her in my top 10 more or less for nostalgic reasons, but, just I gotta love Julie James. Now, this one might surprise some people because at number 9, I have Laurie Strode. Yes, you heard me right. Laurie Strode at number 9 from Halloween. Now, the reason I have her at number 9 is, her arc, was complete in that first movie. She went from not believing in the boogeyman to believing. But, she never really had a real strong fighting chance, and she really spent that first movie kind of running away. Yeah, she stabbed Michael with the coat hanger and the knitting needle and this and that, and, she was trying to protect Tommy and Lindsay. I get it, but it really wasn't until H2O where Laurie Strode, the character, Jamie Lee Curtis's character, really was prepared to fight back. I'm not a big fan of Halloween H2O. It is one of my least favorite Halloween films, but that portrayal of Laurie Strode has got to be my favorite because in Halloween 2018, they went a little too crazy for me. If Halloween 2, 1981 was canon in David Gordon Green's trilogy, I think I would have bought it. I would have been a little bit more accepting of it, but she went a little too crazy for my liking, and there's somebody else on this list from Halloween that I just love a little bit more, and I'm sure you know who I'm talking about. At number 8, we have Alice from the original Friday the 13th. Now, I think Alice is a little bit of a dull, boring character. You know, she grew on me, especially right at the end, obviously, you know, for doing what she did. We'll get to that in a minute. But, you know, Friday the 13th is just so damn iconic. It's very, very difficult for me to leave her off of this list, especially when there's, you know, it's kind of Tommy Jarvis and Ginny. You know, it's kind of those two that, you know, the other final girls, other than, you know, Chris in part 3 rather, excuse me, was pretty cool. I was all right with that. But, you know, Trish and Tommy in part 4, Pam in 5, you know, don't even get me started on Carrie, you know, this and that. Don't get me started on Tina there. But it's all, you've never really been able to get emotionally attached to anybody in Friday the 13th other than Tommy Jarvis. So, you know, Alice might have been kind of stale and boring rather quick, but, you know, she was very courageous at the end there and just swinging it and taking out Mrs. Voorhees like a fucking champ was just, you know, that sold me, you know, so I gotta have her on this list just because of that. You know, in the beginning of part 2, she goes out like a chump. It is what it is, but, you know, I got her at number 8. She's iconic just for what she did to Mrs. Voorhees. In number 7, we've got Sally Hardesty, you know, from the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Now, I am not emotionally attached to the Texas Chainsaw Massacre franchise. If I'm going to be dead honest with you, I really only truly care about the original film and the 03 remake. I could live without every other one of those films. They're not my all-time favorites. The franchise just never caught me like Halloween did, for instance. Leatherface just never really got onto me, but Sally, the way, you know, that Marilyn Burns' scream, the setting of that film, you know, the whole thing at the dinner table and those screams, her being tied up in that chair and her escaping at the end and all bloodied up in the back of that pickup truck. It was just so many epic, iconic moments. So I got it, you know, and Sally, along with another character, are pretty much the two, I don't know if you want to call them, like, they're like, they created what the final girl is. Well, we're gonna get to the other half of that pretty soon on this list. So I have Sally at number 7 rather. Number 6, this is not really controversial, but I look at the character of Ellen Ripley from Alien 1979 as a final girl. Aliens, the rest of the quadrilogy, you know, Ripley really turns into more of an action, sci-fi, heroic person. You know, I don't really view her as a final girl, but if I'm looking at just the original film, you know, Ripley is an iconic character. And it's going to be interesting to see what happens with the new film, you know, between Alien and Aliens. I'm kind of staying away from it. I don't want to dive into it too much and learn a lot of information. I don't want to find out anything. It might not, I don't think it has anything to do with anybody. I'm not sure. I am purposely staying out of it. I am waiting to see that film and see what they're going to throw at us. I don't want to get spoiled and find out anything about it. So as soon as they announced that, I'm just staying away from it completely. Don't want to know anything about it. I'm just going to find out. But Ripley from Alien, I will throw in there as a final girl. The rest of the franchise, you know, she just turned into that, you know, same thing with Sarah Connor. I don't view Sarah Connor as a final girl. I find her as too much of a sci-fi action hero, too much of a heroic character in that kind of a view. But now we're into the top 5. Now, just missing the cut for me of like my Mount Rushmore is another one of like the godfathers of the final girl, and that is Jess Bradford from Black Christmas 1974. Now, like I said, it was Jess Bradford, it was Olivia Hussey and Marilyn Burns that like created the final girl, you know, and then Laurie Strode Jamie Lee Curtis came in and it just became this all big thing, you know, it is what it is. But I watched Black Christmas for the first time as a younger kid. I was probably, I don't know, 9 or 10 when I first saw that movie. I saw it well after all the 90s horror movies, well after, the big three and everything else. Black Christmas was a little bit later, but just seeing how Jess's character came along and that little bit of a weird cliffhanger ending, did she really die or not? She was pregnant. Billy called every time there was a death, and we heard that phone ringing, so we kind of don't really know. But if you've seen It's Me, Billy, from Dave McRae, his amazing fan film, a true sequel to Black Christmas. And It's Me, Billy Chapter 2 will be coming out this year. Be ready for it. Look at Dave McRae's channel. Go find that. You're going to find out a lot about that character of Jess Bradford. Fantastic. She makes my top 5. But coming in at number 4, we have got Rachel Carruthers. Halloween 4. Yes, I've said it before and I'm going to say it again. I love Rachel a hell of a lot more than Laurie Strode. Because it was a pretty quick change of heart for her. At first, oh God, I just want to be with Brady, fuck my little foster sister or whatever. But it was a really quick turn where she was just like, oh shit, I got to protect this girl. And she was fighting off Michael. She was protecting Jamie from Michael Myers. Yes, I don't look at Jamie Lloyd as a final girl. I look at her more of like a scream princess. She was a little too young to take that position. So I've always viewed Rachel as that, and just her character development and that bond that she grew with Danielle Harris's character was just beyond belief. And what happened to her in Halloween 5? I don't even want to talk about it. It just completely derailed it and ruined it and made me sick to my stomach, and I still am to this day. But Rachel Carruthers is number 4 on my all-time favorite final girl list. Coming in at number 3, we're going back to Friday the 13th, and we have got Ginny from Friday the 13th, Part 2. Amy Steele. From the moment we saw her on screen, just how brave and bold and confident her character was, and how she was able to psychologically confuse Jason there at the end and, kind of portray as his mother and really, really mess with his psyche. It just showed how quick-witted and smart of a character she was. And I know, imagine if the franchise continued with her. Imagine if we had Amy Steele in Part 3 and Part 4, and let's say like the Tommy Jarvis storyline was with Ginny. That could have been interesting. I really think Amy Steele could have been the Jamie Lee Curtis or the Nev of Friday the 13th, and I know she regrets it to this day. I mean, I still love it. April Fool's Day, I'll still watch that if I want to rock some Amy Steele, but it sucks to see, looking at it all these years later, and that it didn't pan out the way it could have been. We could have had that epic, iconic final girl that just stuck around, and it just didn't happen. But just for one film, she's at number 3. She's that iconic, that fantastic. Coming in at number 2, and this has been basically my number 2 since forever, and that is Nancy Thompson, Heather Langenkamp from A Nightmare on Elm Street. It was, from moment one, from just the start, she was not dealing with Freddy Krueger's bullshit. She was, you want to mess with me? All right, I'm going to mess with you. And she, the way she set up those booby traps and pulled him out into the real world and was like, you want a piece of me? Come and get it. And she just, she just went out like a champ in Dream Warriors, the way that she's come back for that sequel, which Dream Warriors kind of does feel like a true sequel to the original film. The way she went out there, it seemed all heroic and whatnot, but she should have known better. I believe Nancy is smart enough to know, I'm not going to fall for this crap. This isn't you, Daddy. That still bugs me a little bit, but you look at Wes Craven's New Nightmare, she's there to try to protect her son. It's Nancy. Heather is Heather, not necessarily as Nancy, but she realizes she has to be Nancy one last time to take out Freddy. I love Wes Craven's New Nightmare. I love all 3 adaptations we got of Nancy. The original film by far is the best. And then we got Dream Warriors and New Nightmare. I love it all. So when it comes to the space I have between number 2 and number 1, I got a very, very large gap, because if you've been watching some of my videos and if you've seen what I got around me, you know who my number 1 is. And it is definitively, forever, going to be Sidney Prescott. Neve Campbell, the absolute definition of a badass final girl who, from the moment we see her, was not taking any shit from Billy and Stu. You know, she was fighting back from day one, you know what I mean? And just, she plays the character so iconically epic. And I just, you know, look at her in the sequel, you know, Mickey, Mrs. Loomis, you know, you want to fucking go? Let's go. And she just takes those fuckers out, you know. Oh, I got a little half-brother Roman. Let's fucking go. All right, Jill, you forgot the first rule of remakes. Don't fuck with the original. And she just takes that bitch out. Sidney Prescott is definitively my all-time favorite final girl. She might not be your number 1. Let me know who your number 1 is. Let me know who your 1 through 10 is. You know, and like I said, let me know if there's anybody that, you know, any honorable mentions or anybody that I forgot. But I mean, this is just my opinion. This is just how I feel. And I know a lot of these are not necessarily controversial. A lot of them are popular picks and a few oddballs here and there. But, you know, I was brought up a certain way, and I've just got a certain view on things, and this is just how it is. So thank you guys. Like and subscribe if you want to see more. And like I said, comment down below and let me know your thoughts. And until next time, we will see you soon.